Imagine stepping into the studio where the very first Linn drum machine had just arrived. That was Martin Rushent's generic studio in 1981, where the Human League will use it to create one of the most iconic sounds into their album, The Sound of the Crowd. Sound of the Crowd marked a turning point for the Human League. After the original lineup split, Philip Oakey led the band into a new, more pop-driven direction, teaming up with producer Martin Rushent. Together, they crafted the album There. Manager Bob Last saw a golden opportunity, and this new lineup with Susan and Joan joining Oakey needed a fresh pop-forward sound. They initially used more primitive synth percussion, but as luck would have it, the very first LM-1 in England found its way into their studio during the recording process. The arrival of the LM-1 drum machine into this studio was a great opportunity for the Human League to redo a track like The Sound of the Crowd. At the time, sequencers like the Roland MC8 microcomposer were used to program ultra-precise patterns. That was pre-MIDI, so if you think it's easy to program and sequence music today, in the 80s this was something that required patience, precision, and lots of time. Rushent and engineer Dave Allen would spend hours programming just a few bars. And if you're into the Roland MC8 process, I highly recommend you watch Alex Ball's video. He used the MC8 microcomposer, so you have an idea of all the work that it takes to program. I leave the link in the description of this video. And let's go back a little bit into history. Remember that before the LM existed, drum machines sounded synthetic. With the arrival of the LM-1, the history of drum machines completely changed. And that was because of the ability of the LM-1 combining sound precision with real samples. You can see the full story in a video I made on my channel, and I leave the link in the description as well. The Sound of the Crowd climbed to the number 12 in the UK charts. This set up the stage for bigger hits like Don't You Want Me. Oakey himself once said it was the weirdest record to be in the top 10. The album used synths like the System 700, JP4, Korg 770, Delta, Casio VLT1, M10, and Yamaha CS40M. To honor this track, I'll be recreating the core elements using a Korg MiniKorg 700 and the Linn LM-1 for the drums. I'll be layering everything else in Logic Pro to stay faithful to that tight, clean 1981 production style, and I'll be adding the Yamaha CS40M for that big bass that is in the middle of the track. For the bass, for the pad, and for the lead, I'm using the Korg 700, the MiniKorg, and I'm going to be showing you also like the different combinations that I use, like the patches here in the main control that I'm going to show you here in the front panel. So you can use those. I listened to the track many times. I tried to get it as close as possible, and I'm going to be passing these to Logic Pro. And again, something that you have to keep in mind is that I always use classic or vintage instruments, and I combine it with software using Logic Pro. And that's because I don't have all the instruments used in the original track. So I think it's a good exercise to play along with vintage and modern. So hopefully you like it. Again, it's not like an exact recreation, but I try my best to get as close as possible to the track. Let me know in the comments once you hear the final track, what you think, what are your thoughts, and what could get better. This is a learning process for me all the time. Every time I hear to a song, I'm always learning processes in this. So it's, and actually for the big bass, they use a CS15 for this kind of big bass that is at the end of the song. And I have a Yamaha CS40. I'm gonna try to put somewhere in the studio that huge thing. I have it in storage. I'm gonna show you. That thing is heavy, and I'm gonna try to take it out just to record that bass. So finally, we might get all of our sounds. There's some other sounds that I might add using Logic Pro, but Hopefully everything goes well with this track. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you how I'm using the MiniKorg 700 to use the lead part for this song. And actually, why don't we just record it? This is exactly the patch that I'm using for this sound. I have the scale in 16, but you can do it also here if you want. I'm using the chorus 1 for this sound. The 2 is kind of too much. And then you have the triangle, square, and sine. So as you can see, chorus is the best option. The only one that I'm using is the bright. So you can hear it without, and you're gonna see how the waveform changes from having it off versus having it on. This is without it. Now I'm gonna turn it on. So it gives that feel that the original song has. One more thing that I have here, as you can see, the attack, I have it between 0 and 1. I'm gonna go all the way to 8 so you can hear the difference. This is in the middle in 4, and now in 0. Between 0 and 1. Another important element for this is the traveler. The number 1, or the first one that is here on the top that you can see. I have it between 3 and 4. And you're gonna see if I go way down, it's gonna be too much. And if I go a little more up, we're gonna lose it. So let me show you first. That's between 0 and 1. Then I'm going to 5, 6, 7, 8. So between 3 and 4 is the best. And now in the one below, I'm gonna go, well, I have it actually in 8, almost exactly in 8. Let's go to 0, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Have a little bit of body to the sound, but also keep it more in the thin side than in the bassy side, in the higher frequencies instead of the lower frequencies. So that way we can have that kind of plasticky sound that the original song has. Okay, so now we're gonna go with our pad. So let's record first the part. So I'm gonna record an octave up just to make sure that I get that other part, and then I'm gonna mix it in Logic Pro. And this is gonna be in way lower volume than this one that I think is more the center of that part. I added a little bit of depth to the sound between 4 and 5. The speed is between 1 and 2. This is 0. This is 8. Then I added here the delay vibration, which is what you're hearing, and the vibrato. The chorus remains the same. I just scale it up to 8, but I mean, just for practical things. And here in the expand and bright in the Traveler, I put it almost at 1, so I could have that brightness that this sounds has. It's between 0 and 1, and this one is in 9, almost getting to 10. The attack here, I put it between 4 and 5. Maybe actually should be more into 7 instead of 5. Maybe almost all the way to 8. 8 is the limit here. There's no 10. And the percussion is pretty open, because if we close it here, and this is a pad basically. It's called singing. And of course, I'm using the LM-1 to recreate the drum pattern, but unfortunately, my Linn gave up finally, and probably is the battery. I don't know what it is, but as you can see, it's stuck here. I'm able to make it work actually sometimes to play the pads. So what I'm going to do is that once it works, I'm going to be recording directly into Logic Pro to get the patterns, because I'm not going to be able to record internally any of the patterns of this song. I feel actually very sad, because I'm going to have to take it to the doctor. Okay, so for the bass, I'm going to show you the patches that I did. Here I went with the sine, and I opened the expand, the sustain to keep it long, if not. So we want the bass to be the same length. You can have it a little longer. So for example, I have it actually here just to tell you exactly what I have it the percussion in number 2 and the attack in 0. The Traveler, I have it in the highest, like basically the first one I have it in between 0 and 1, and the lower down I have it almost hitting 7, but it's pretty much 7, but a little slightly to the 6, just a little bit. The sign I explained to you, the sustain, I added a little bit of vibrato and the delay vibrato, that it is on 3, the speed, and number 2, the depth. Almost between 2 and 3, to be exact. The portamento is in 0, it's not activated. So, because the percussion, for example, and I'm doing actually I'm basing myself on the remaster that was launched in 2021. So for example, I say that I'm here in 2, but if I go longer, So 2 is the one that makes sense. The attack. Actually, it's not 0, it's just a little bit going to 1, like between 0 and 1. The low, you can hear it here. That's 10, going to 5, going to 0. The Traveler, as I say, I have it in 7. I want to show you where I have the CS40 stored. It's not ideal. I know I don't love having synths like that sitting down this way, but I mean, space in New York is always so tough and so hard. So I'm gonna have to pull that out. That is super heavy. I have an M1, an Emax blocking the space, and I have also this kind of storage unit here too with other synths. I have an MPC 60 and this 505 and other things that I have to move uh, in order to take that. But that's gonna be to record this bass that is needed for this song, for the Human League song. So once we have that plugged, we're gonna record that single bass and we will be almost complete. Okay, so let me tell you what I did with the Yamaha CS40M. This is a beast of a synth. It sounds amazing. It's probably like the little brother of the CS 50, 60, and 80s. It sounds amazing. I love the sound. And this is what I did. I basically modulated the BCO1 and the BCO2 to get that kind of fat sound. I changed a little bit the voltage control amplifier just to make it not too big, because you can hear here. This thing is huge. And this is the thing. So first of all here, I just left it kind of in the middle ground. Then the release time here in the BCA, you can release it as much as you want, but I just left it so when I end up the key, you can have a little tail. Also, the BCO1, you can see 1 and 2. This is how you control the volume of both. This is without any of the sound of this BCO1 and BCO2. So what I did with this one, I just changed it because it was, we have the triangle ones. So I think this is a square wave. So I left it in square in both. Also the feet, which is like basically like the octave. So in the feet I left it in 32. The pitch stays in 0, the same with BCO1. And if we combine both of them, we're gonna get that kind of dirty sound that the original track has. And maybe I'm putting a little bit of more body into this, because why not? I mean, we have this such a beast. The original recording, I don't think it has such a big bass. I'm going in the middle. You have here a little bit of noise, which I didn't know. I just kept it clean. Oh, and this is important. I put a little brightness into this because here. So let's see how it sounds when I put it together with the whole track. I might EQ a little bit of this, maybe if I added too much bass. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy the making of Sound of the Crowd, like, share, turn on the notifications, and consider joining my Nostalgic Explorer community on Patreon to keep these recreations coming.